Bryer's Music Showcase is brought to you by the people over at Patreon. Pledge today and get access to exclusive perks. Link in the description. Anime. Now, if you're somehow living under a rock, anime is referred to Japanese animation. And anime has been around for decades. I remember it being a very niche interest, especially here in America, but over the years, especially now, it has garnered such a massive cult following, and there's many animes coming out every year, and there's passionate fans all around the world. So why the heck am I talking about anime on this channel? Well, it's actually an interesting topic because we're going to be talking about anime music. The music that is used in the shows often are Japanese, which makes sense. But every once in a blue moon, a song in English is utilized. And in this video, I want to highlight those songs that were used in Japanese animation. Now, I do have a few things to say first. One thing is that the only exception I'm making is that I'm not including songs that were made specifically for the show. So for example, the Pokemon theme is not going to be used because that song was made specifically for the show. I'm only talking about songs that had no intention of being part of an anime, but just ended up being used, whether a higher up thought it would be a good idea or just match the tone. And one more thing I'm going to add is that I'm not claiming to be an expert on anime. A lot of the shows I'm going to be talking about are shows I have not seen personally, so I'm going to be reading the synopsis throughout the video, so there might be potential spoilers. I'm not sure if many of you are going to check these shows out, but just so you get a little bit more context. I'm pretty excited about this video and hopefully you learned something by the end. And if you did learn something, please give this video a like. If you are new, please subscribe to the channel. And without further ado, let's start talking about these 10 songs. So the first anime I'm going to be highlighting is a show called Legend of Black Heaven, and the opening theme was Cautionary Warning by John Sykes. Now this might potentially be the most obscure song on this list, as I'm not sure how many people actually know who John Sykes is, but if you're a hard rock and metal fan, then you should probably know, because he was a member of Thin Lizzy for a time on their final album Thunder and Lightning, and of course he was a member of Whitesnake during their most successful period, and of course he was in a band called Blue Murder, and he even had a solo career, and the song that was used in the anime was one of his solo songs. Oji Tananaka has a wife, a child, and a mundane job as a salaryman in Tokyo's modern society. But life wasn't dull for him to begin with. 15 years ago, he was known as Gabriel, leader of a short-lived heavy metal band called Black Heaven. Oji's life gets a sudden change in direction when he is invited by a mysterious blonde woman named Layla to pick up his Gibson Flying V and once again display his legendary guitar skills, not knowing that his music generates power of a massive weapon in an intergalactic war. My thoughts on the song is actually a very high energy, very heavy track, and I believe you have John Sykes doing lead vocals, and I'm not going to say he's like amazing, like he's not the greatest voice I've heard, but it kind of fits the vibe. The guitar work goes without saying, it's really good, and I have not seen the show, but I'm going to assume it kind of fits the tone of, it talks about a guitar and being in a rock band, so there you go, I guess. So that's all I gotta say about it, but just want to highlight that one and gives John Sykes some more praise. Rest in peace, John Sykes. Next up on the list, we have an anime called Speed Grapher, and the song they used for the opening theme was Girls on Film by Duran Duran. Ten years after the Bubble War, the dichotomy between the rich and the poor in the world becomes more prominent, and Japan is no exception. The rich seek to satisfy their desires and derive pleasure for themselves, and Tokyo has materialized into such a city as a result. Saiga, once a war photographer, works for Hibra Ginza in the capitalist city of Tokyo. He infiltrates the Roppongi Club, a secretive base located in the red light district of the city, to collect information about them. However, he was caught in the process and brought forward to a girl named Kagura who was in the midst of a ritual. His contact with Kagura awakens his special ability, the power to make things explode when photographed. In order to unravel the mystery behind the Roppongi Club and Kagura, Saiga begins his solitary battle. Of course, the song Girls on Film was on Duran Duran's first album, and it does kind of make sense why they used the song, because Girl on Film and the main character's a photographer, so it utilizes film to an extent. So that kind of makes sense. But one thing worth noting was that while the song was used in the original Japanese airing, when it was brought to America, for some reason they actually replaced it with a different song entirely, probably due to licensing issues. Regardless, I never thought Duran Duran would be in a Japanese anime, but there you go. Next up, we're going to an anime called Argo Proxy, and the song they used for the ending theme was Paranoid Android by Radiohead. And of course, I do have the album it appears on. It does appear on their most celebrated album, OK Computer, and it's a great song in the album, definitely a highlight for sure. It's actually track 2. And funny enough, when I did the research, the band initially declined when they were given the offer, but it wasn't until the producers or whoever showed them like previews of what the anime was going to look, and that was kind of enough for the band to be convinced that, okay, you can use our song. Within the doomed city of Ramdo lies one of the last human civilizations on Earth. Thousands of years ago, a global ecological catastrophe doomed the planet. Now, life outside these domes is virtually impossible. To expedite mankind's recovery, humanoid-like robots have been created to assist people in their day-to-day lives. However, these robots have begun contracting a enigmatic disease called the kinetovirus. Raymer, the granddaughter of Ramdo's ruler, is assigned to investigate this phenomenon alongside her robot partner, Iggy. But what begins as a routine investigation quickly spirals into a conspiracy as Ray is confronted by humanity's darkest sins. Another show I have not seen, but based on what I've seen and images I've looked at, I can see why they wanted Radiohead, because Radiohead does have this very unique sound, and the anime does look kind of unique in its own right. So I think it all worked out in the end. Next up, we have an anime called Higashi No Eden, or in English it translates to Eden of the East, and the song they utilized is Falling Down by Oasis. On November 22nd, 2010, Japan was hit by missile strikes, a terrorist act that fortunately did not harm anyone, becoming known as Careless Monday. Quickly forgotten, society goes on about their lives as normal. During her graduation trip to America 3 months later, friendly college student Saki Morimi's life is forever changed when she finds herself saved from unexpected trouble by Akira Takizawa. Takizawa is cheerful but odd in many ways. He is stark and suffers from amnesia, believing himself to be a terrorist. In addition, he possesses a strange cell phone loaded with 8.2 billion yen in digital cash. Despite Takizawa's suspicious traits, Saki quickly befriends the enigmatic young man. However, unbeknownst to her, this is the beginning of a thrilling death game involving money, cell phones, and the salvation of the world. So Falling Down was on Oasis' 7th album, Dig Out Your Soul, and this is another case where on the original release it was utilized, but when it came on certain streaming platforms, most notably Funimation, it was replaced yet again. Again, I'm only assuming it could be just licensing things that's going on, but again, it's kind of a shame that stuff like this has to go down. This is yet another show I have not seen, so I don't know if the song really actually works, but of course, if you have seen it, you can let me know in the comments below. Next up, we have a pretty famous one here. We have the anime Neon Genesis Evangelion, or Gelion, however you want to say it, and their ending theme was Fly Me to the Moon. 15 years after a cataclysmic event known as the Second Impact, the world faces a new threat. Monstrous celestial beings called angels invade Tokyo 3 one by one. Mankind is unable to defend themselves against the angels despite utilizing their most advanced munitions and military tactics. The only hope for human salvation rests in the hands of NERV, a mysterious organization led by the cold Gendo Ikari. NERV operates giant humanoid robots dubbed Evangelions to combat the angels with state-of-the-art advanced machinery and protective barriers known as absolute terror fields. Years after being abandoned by his father, Shinji Ikari, Gendo's 14-year-old son, returns to Tokyo 3. Shinji undergoes a perpetual internal battle against the deeply buried trauma caused by the loss of his mother and the emotional neglect he suffered at the hands of his father. Terrified to open himself up to another, Shinji's life is forever changed upon meeting 29-year-old Masato Katsugi, a high-ranking NERV officer who shows him a free-spirited, maternal kindness he has never experienced. Now, Fly Me to the Moon dates back to 1954, and countless people have covered it over the years, the most famous one being Frank Sinatra. Despite being the most famous version, the show actually doesn't utilize Frank's version, and instead they actually have numerous cast members singing the song. The song has become somewhat synonymous with the show, and when the anime first was broadcast on Netflix, there was controversy when it was actually replaced due to, once again, licensing issues. Regardless, regarding an ending theme to an anime, this is one I could not leave off. And now we have JoJo's Bizarre Adventures, more specifically its third season called Stardust Crusaders. Years after an ancient evil was salvaged from the depths of the sea, Jotaro Kujo sits peacefully within a Japanese jail cell. He committed no crime yet demands he not be released, believing he's been possessed by an evil spirit capable of harming those around him. Concerned for her son, Holy Kujo seeks her father, Joseph's Joestar, to convince Jotaro to leave the prison. Joseph informs his grandson that the evil spirit is in fact something called a stand, the physical manifestation of one's fighting spirit, which can adopt a variety of deadly forms. After a fiery brawl with Joseph's friend Muhammad Avdal, Jotaro is forced out of the cell and begins learning how to control the power of his stand. However, when the stand awakens within Holy and threatens to consume her in 50 days, Jotaro, his grandfather, and their allies must seek out and destroy the immortal vampire responsible for her condition. They must travel halfway across the world to Cairo, Egypt, and along the way go battle with ferocious stand users set on thwarting them. If Jotaro and his allies fail in their mission, humanity is destined for a grim fate. And probably they use the most fitting song since it takes place in mostly Egypt, and that song is Walk Like an Egyptian by the Bangles. And I do have a Bangles greatest hits compilation here, and of course the song's here. And you know, it's kind of a little funny, little kind of contradiction, you know. JoJo's Bizarre Adventure is known for its action, but yet is paired up with a very poppy, pop rock song. But you know, I think it kind of works actually. And another thing that is worth noting is that this is not going to be the only time we're going to hear about JoJo's Bizarre Adventure, because they are definitely known for a lot of references to many bands and artists from mainly America and England. So we'll get to that one coming soon, but just gonna kind of bring this one to light. But other than that, not much else to say, and let's keep moving.
Walk like an Egyptian.
And now we have a somewhat interesting combination. The anime we're going to be talking about is Helsing, and their ending theme was Shine by Mr. Big.
I never really feel quite right. I don't know why. All I know.
Helsing, an organization specializing in dealing with supernatural threats, is called in to eliminate a vampire that is turning the village of Cheddar into ghouls. To put an end to this, the leader of the organization, Sir Integra Fairbrook Wingates Helsing, dispatches her most formidable asset, a powerful vampire known as Alucard. Armed with only a single handgun, Alucard wreaks havoc on the monsters plaguing Cheddar. However, a young police officer, Ceres Victoria, gets caught up in the chaos and becomes mortally wounded as a result. Taking pity on the girl, Alucard gives her a choice: die as a human or live on as a vampire. Ceres accepts his offer and begins a new life as a member of Helsing. Though it was her decision, Ceres struggles with the fact that she is no longer human. Nevertheless, she must embrace being a creature of the night soon if she wants to survive on the front lines in the fight between humans and the supernatural. Now, Helsing, the anime, has interesting history because there's actually two versions of the anime. You have the original Helsing anime, but then you have Helsing Ultimate, which Helsing Ultimate kind of follows the manga a lot more, very much closer, while the first anime adaptation kind of did their own thing, but kind of has the basics of it. And when talking about the original anime adaptation, it always kind of surprised me that a show that is very dark, there's a lot of blood, there's a lot of violence going on, and yet it's paired with a very upbeat, very lighthearted rock song.
But all I want is for you to shine.
I mean, I love the song. It's like actually a really good catchy number from the band, and I'm actually very shocked I don't have it on CD, unfortunately. But still, it kind of always threw me off just how much they kind of don't really fit. But it might be the case that the song, lyrically is about shining and being true to yourself or something like that, or kind of being confident in yourself, I guess. And I guess it works in the character Ceres' case, maybe. But still, musically, I don't think it fits, but that's just me. That's just my opinion. And for the next one I'm going to talk about, a little something different, because everything I've talked about before has all been series, about 12 episodes a season, something like that. But I'm actually going to talk about a movie this time, and the movie I'm going to talk about is called A Silent Voice. And a little story behind this one. I distinctly remember watching this film for the first time. I was at my computer, and I was sitting back, and the movie began, and it kind of is setting the tone. And at some point in the beginning, just out of nowhere, I hear this. I was shocked to learn that A Silent Voice used My Generation from The Who in the beginning of the movie. It caught me way off guard. I was so off guard, I was convinced I had a tab open that I forgot to close. But no, they actually used My Generation from The Who in the beginning, which was pretty awesome. As a wild youth, elementary school student Shoya Ishida sought to beat boredom in the cruelest way. When the deaf Shoko Nishimiya transfers into his class, Shoya and the rest of his class thoughtlessly bully her for fun. However, when her mother notifies the school, he is singled out and blamed for everything done to her. With Shoko transferring out of the school, he is heartlessly ostracized all throughout elementary and middle school, while teachers turn a blind eye. Now in his third year of high school, Shoya is still plagued by his wrongdoings as a young boy. Sincerely regretting his past actions, he sets out on a journey of redemption to meet Shoko once more and make amends. Beautiful film, by the way. I really recommend you check out A Silent Voice if you have not had already. It's a very, very kind of emotional film. And the beginning kind of sets the tone of being a very somber sort of movie, but then it's kind of juxtaposed with My Generation as we're kind of transported back into Shoya's childhood, about, they're young, they're carefree, and the song of my generation kind of fits that carefree kind of, we're kids, we're just gonna have fun sort of atmosphere. But it is a cool kind of little throw in. And funny enough, the animation studio Kyoto Animation seems to have an affinity for The Who, because it's not the only time they reference the band in some capacity. And now we're kind of moving back to just your standard series, and the show we're talking about is called The Great Pretender. It's another show I have not seen. I know it was popular, and for its ending theme, they used the song The Great Pretender. Now, the original song The Great Pretender dates back to 1955, first recorded by the Platters, but the show chooses not to use that version. They decided to go with another one, and honestly, I am so happy they actually used this version.
Oh yes, I'm the great pretender.
That's right, they actually used Freddie Mercury's cover of the song from 1987, I believe. 87, 88, somewhere around that time. And it is a great cover of the song. Of course, Freddie sings it amazingly. And of course, the song became somewhat synonymous with him, especially during the end of his life, if you know what I mean. But it is pretty awesome to know Freddie Mercury was actually used in an anime. That is awesome. That is badass, if you ask me. And again, I've not seen the show, and so I don't know the context of it being used, other than the title, but still, pretty awesome to know that. A series of unfortunate events has led Makoto Edamura to adopt the life of crime, pickpocketing and scamming others for a living. However, after swindling a seemingly clueless tourist, Makoto discovers that he was the one tricked, and to make matters worse, that the police are now after him. While making his escape, he runs into the tourist once again, who turns out to be a fellow conman named Laurent Thierry, don't know how to say his last name, and ends up following him to Los Angeles. In an attempt to defend his self-proclaimed title of Japanese greatest swindler, Makoto challenges his rival to determine the best scammer. Accepting the competition, Laurent drops them off outside a huge mansion and claims that their target will be the biggest mafia boss on the West Coast. As Makoto becomes increasingly involved with the cunning Laurent, his colorful associates, and the world of international high-stakes fraud, he soon realizes that he got more than what he bargained for, as his self-declared skills are continually put to the test. And also, big props to the animators, because not only do they reenact the music video that Freddie did, there's tons of cats in it, and it's very sweet knowing that all the cats you see were actually all modeled after Freddie's real-life cats. And the main one we follow throughout is actually Delilah, which I think is very sweet. And honestly, I get a little emotional watching it because it makes me want to pet my kitties right after I see it. So I think probably in terms of visuals, I think that's probably my favorite of all these songs listed here. That's just my personal opinion. And of course, it's Freddie Mercury, so I have a little bit of a bias there. But regardless, excellent kind of discovery for me. And now we've reached the final song in this video, and it's probably the most famous one. And in order to introduce it, let's show a little clip.
Hey, you want to end the show with a to be continued meme? I don't even know what that...
That's right, we have the first season of JoJo's Bizarre Adventures, and for its ending theme, it utilizes Yes's Roundabout.
The music dies and sing. They make the children read.
The year is 1868. English nobleman George Joestar and his son Jonathan become indebted to Dario Brando after becoming rescued from a carriage incident. What the Joestars didn't realize, however, is that Dario has no intention of helping them. He believed they were dead and was trying to ransack their belongings. After Dario's death 12 years later, George, hoping to repay his debt, adopts his son, Dio. While he publicly fawns over his new father, Dio secretly plans to steal the Joestar fortune. His first step is to create a divide between George and Jonathan. By constantly outdoing his foster brother, Dio firmly makes his place in the Joestar family. but when Dio pushes Jonathan too far, Jonathan defeats him in a brawl. Years later, the two appear to be close friends to the outside world, but trouble brews again when George falls ill, as Jonathan suspects that Dio is somehow behind the incident, and it appears he has more tricks up his sleeve. So using a progressive rock song for your action series may seem kind of strange at first, but upon research, I've learned that the original author of the manga actually was the one who really pushed for this. And I'm going to look up his name here. I'm going to try to read off it, but I'm probably going to butcher it like I've done all the other names in this video. Hirohiko Araki, something like that. I'm sorry, I'm terrible at names. But he was a big fan of this song, and he listened to the song constantly while he was writing the manga, of course. We all know it would eventually become a meme afterwards. We've probably seen quite a bit of them over the years since it came out, which I think 2012 when the anime came out, and you see it every once in a while. Yeah, it can be funny. It's kind of funny, you know, the whole "to be continued" meme. But that's just something that's kind of become a big internet thing. And honestly, whatever it takes to get people into Yes, hey, I'll take it. And I certainly can vouch for that, because that meme was how I got introduced to Yes. And since then, I've become a massive fan of them. And one more thing I'll note is that JoJo's Bizarre Adventure actually has tons of references to many different bands and artists. There's a character named Robert E.O. Speedwagon. There's one called Led Zeppeli or something like that. There's a person called Killer Queen. Maybe one day we'll do a video talking about all the music reference in JoJo's Bizarre Adventure. Let me know if you want to see that. And there you have it. Those are 10 English-speaking songs that were utilized in Japanese anime. I'm sure there's probably more, but those are probably the most famous ones I talked about. So maybe we can do a part 2 someday, maybe. Again, that's another thing you can drop in the comments if you want to see. But until then, I hope you've enjoyed this video, and hopefully you were able to bear with my terrible Japanese pronunciation. Besides that, if you liked it, please give it a like. If you are new, please subscribe to the channel. And of course, comment below which one of these songs was the most surprising to you. Well, that's all I gotta say for now. Take care, and goodbye for now.